Bonbini na Gota di Paz ku Shanti for di Canal 90 na programa Yobida di Paz. Aqui nang deng no studio cozy ku Bella te y Flor, nati vitras di controller y un saludos na tur esnang ku tur esimang nang akita escuchando es akita episodio number 8 que men mi que saluda Kurt Hassel ku ta escucha fielmente tur simang mi tan chistima Adelaida Ponzon y también mi grupo de adulto mayor na centro de barrio Savaneta y Opa sempre ta escucha y tu resnanko a ta apoyanos y ta donanos e comentario nang e feedback para ese realmente te ayudanos inspirarnos para hacernos best y sigue ofrecer cosas bonita para la comunidad para la resiliencia del corazón y mente. El tema de hoy está Intergenerational Healing. Y pues nang ko awaki diba social media, eta baita ding inglés awe, eta un tema específico y mahaya experto especial para tratar el tema aquí awe y mi mesting hopi gana diba escucha y sinya. Pero prome, van hala rosea. Bosako calor de hoy en día, eta ayuda ora bo hala rosea, no? Paso ora bota hala rosea y bota calmo, bosako temperatura di bukur pata baja. Que men no ansha evita rabia y zundra, pues se está haciendo más calor. Que men van preparar para un dushi rosea, para abrir el corazón y mente para el tópico de hoy. Sinta cómodo, relaja pia nang na suela, bomang nang suave riba mesa o riba skochi. Si bokear e wo nang porcera of wak abaw. Trece po atención na bo rosea. Inhala, consciente. Exhala, calma e mente. Rosea aden. Llena el pulmón. Rosea afo, calma el corazón. Inhala más. Exhala más. Borosea tabogota de paz. Observa cómo te sientes ahora aquí. Después de 3 rosea más largo, dushino, exeta e oxígeno, que calma, ¿no? Y también de una energía. Ok, Intergenerational Healing, para traducir en papiamento, sanación intergeneracional. Esta existía palabra ahí, pero esta algo que tuviera hopi actual, es un tema hopi actual. Mi mesa encontrar el tema de mi estudio de meditación, que ta papia de Intergenerational Healing, y mi hacía of comprender que trauma y estrés de nos antepasados que no aguardo resolver, ta aguardo pasar para la siguiente generación. Y cierto estudio científico ta hasta muestra que esta queda 7 generación den el sistema. Que en nuestra papel de abuso, maltrato, si no aguardo resolver, ello ta queda con el efecto nan. De ese esta vai trata ahora y hopi más con los invitados especial que ahora sí me te va a introducir. Nos invitado especial. Ta originalmente de Saint Lucia. Es un Master's in Clinical Social Work de Howard University de Washington, USA. Es un Bachelor of Arts in Missionary Catechesis de Universitat Urbaniana na Roma, Italia. Y él acaba de hacer su PhD graduate y está ahora con su buki que nos estaban también dando un tiki atención. Y él gradua de Universidad de Suriname, Anton.com. Y tiene 30 años de experiencia trabajando como educador de trabajador social. Y él publica varios artículos científicos con el tema de justicia para mucha y desarrollo humano. Y me download tour, pasó una hopi interesante, me tuve que poner band en mi cama para mi lesa. Y también nos invitado especial a migrar na Aruba 16 años pasar y él ayuda a establecer el Departamento de Social Work Development y Bachelor Program na Universidad de Aruba. Está un poeta um estudiante de mindfulness e está hopi apaixonada com seu trabalho de trabalhador social, direitos humanos, justiça social, desenvolvimento humano. E você aqui que está pensando? Eta pensa que eigenlijk full e mundo me servira um trabalhador social. Então, mas que pensa de coisa de verdade. É uma habilidade hopi importante. E me tinha missa bosso como está honorar para ter nos invitado a e chama Clementia Eugene. A você, Clementia. Welcome, Clementia.
Good afternoon to all on Radio Land.
Very grateful to have you. So always I go back, where did we meet? And where did we meet? I think you were coming to my courses.
Yeah.
You came to meditation, you came to mindfulness, lectures, retreats. Honored to always have you. And now I'm on the other side. I'm going to learn from you, Clementia. So my first question is, what led you or inspired you to cultivate this career and profession in child protection, social justice, and child abuse and all of that? Where did that come from?
Thank you, Shanti, for inviting me here. Where did it come from? I grew up in a household where my father was a functioning alcoholic and also domestic violence towards my mom. I lived in a neighborhood where to the right were a cluster of families. Mm-hmm. They were all alcoholics. Mm. And on the other side of the road was another cluster of families. They were all alcoholics. So I grew up in an entire community, an entire village surrounded with trauma and abuse, and women were always running from their homes, from their partners because of beatings. And I knew I did not want that for myself. Mm. And I left high school and I wanted to become, my father was a farmer. And unlike my other colleagues, I wanted to become not a farmer per se, but I wanted to become an agriculturist. Oh. I really enjoyed the men and women who were agricultural officers who would visit my father's farm to introduce new pesticides and new products. And that fascinated me. Mm. And so I left college and I applied and I was not accepted. Oh. But thankfully, all my friends were applying to do secretarial studies. And I applied as well, and I was accepted for that. Okay. And I wasn't happy. I never saw myself as an office girl. I wanted to be in the field and so on. And then I graduated. I did it for 2 years, and I left. But I found my passion there because as a secretary, I was secretary to the Director of Human Services and Family Affairs. And there I was introduced to the profession of social work because I was the secretary for all the social workers. And I just fell in love with the profession. Wow. Because people were coming and they were telling stories of my childhood. And I was like, this is it. So I left secretarial work after 2 years and then I went to study to become a social worker.
That is so special. You see how the universe works? So you want to do agriculture, but the door was closed there for you because there was a bigger destiny. Yeah. Because look at you here today, all the beautiful work that you do. Yeah. I've seen the exposition that you hosted with your students of the faculty. It is so inspiring, all the work that you're doing at the university. And I really want to talk also about your beautiful book that you published. Wow, wow, wow. Where to begin? So let's go with the term today, the title, the topic, intergenerational healing. Can you define it? What does it mean?
Yeah. I think before we could define intergenerational healing, maybe we need to talk about defining trauma, because I think that's the space from which I want to talk about it, and maybe even begin with stress. No, yeah. So stress is the way our body reacts to everyday life challenges. And when we experience stress, it does not disrupt our normal way of living. But trauma is when we experience deep, depressing, disturbing life experiences, and it's passed on from one generation to the next to the next. I like the way Dr. Thelma Bryant defines it. She says intergenerational trauma could be defined as experiences a person have they inherit rather, from their parents and the families who raised them, and from the parents and the families who raised their parents.
It comes from all directions.
Yes.
Not only genetically.
Yes, not only genetically. So that's what makes it intergenerational. It's passed on from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. And it is traumatic, meaning it has long-term effects on our mental, physical, and psychological well-being. And it interferes with our entire life cycle.
Very interesting. And is this, like I said, is this really a new topic, or the time is right now, or this is the time, or has this been around for a while?
It has always been there, but I suppose with time people grow in consciousness. So it could be called intergenerational trauma. Other people call it historical trauma, ancestral trauma, collective trauma. So it has always been there, but somehow in the last 10, 20 years, people are beginning to become more aware of it. And it began particularly in 1997, 1998, when the Center of Disease and Control from the US did a landmark study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences. They were curious to find out to what extent childhood experiences interfere in the quality of life across lifespan. And the study discovered that there are 10 childhood experiences. It means that anything, for example, the first 5 have to do with my study, child abuse. So this is physical abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, and there's physical neglect, and there's also emotional neglect. And the other 5 comes from household dysfunction. Mm-hmm. So if growing up as a child between 0 and 18, you lived with a parent who was alcoholic, or there was mental illness in the family, or a family member or a parent was incarcerated, or you experienced divorce or separation. Any of those 10 experiences have the potential to interfere with the rest of your life, characterized by medical conditions, stroke, cardiovascular, cancer, diabetes, depression, anxiety, and the panic attacks. So what they discovered in that study, because they did the study in collaboration with health insurances, looking at the causes of death and comparative childhood experiences. And they discovered a lot of the people who experience those medical health conditions experience those childhood experiences. And how do we call this? It's trauma, you know?
That's very interesting, right? Things that we see as almost normal, the diseases, but it has this deeper root.
Yeah.
And I asked when this term became more, officially coined, but also I came across in my studies literature on Native American tribes. In some of the tribes, they mention this, that trauma or stress stays in the system, in the lineage for 7 generations. And interestingly, I've seen recent research on worms, but also on rats, that the inherited stress stays in 7 generations. Yeah. So it is an ancient wisdom, actually, that the natives knew, that the research now is proving.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating.
Yeah, me too. So for example, when we look at how is it transmitted, it is transmitted through gene expression, through
Mm-hmm.
DNA. And you're right. I saw a recent study that they were beginning to predict that those traumatic experiences could stay not just 7 but 14 generations.
14,
so for example,
double.
Shanti, just imagine a boy being born today at this moment at Dr. Horacio Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It means that this little boy being born today at this moment is inheriting in his DNA, in his gene expression, 7 generations of trauma from the father's side and another 7 from the mother's side, already from both. So that's intergenerational trauma already.
Yes.
Okay? Expressed through epigenetics. But the good news is...
Good news, people.
The good news is, in as much as trauma is inherited, healing can also be inherited.
Mm-hmm.
So although we have those gene expression through epigenetics, what we learn in the research is that we do have the potential to change our DNA.
That's beautiful.
We do have it through changing diet and changing thought patterns and through mindfulness, through therapy. So there is good news.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that good news as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So when we were discussing earlier, you mentioned the 3 ways in which trauma is transmitted.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting because it was through observation, but also there were 2 others. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so trauma can be inherited or transmitted rather in 3 ways. So the first is through DNA, biologically, through gene expression, as I explained earlier on. And we can go further to say when we experience a traumatic event, it actually disrupts the structure of our nervous system, of our brain. It disrupts it in such a way that it is manifested in not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, back pain, stomach pain, disassociation, and all those stresses and all those medical conditions is as because of the way it disrupts the entire cycle of the body. Okay, so it actually lives in the body. So trauma lives in the body. It lives in our DNA. So it's transmitted that way. The second is through direct messaging. So oftentimes we tell our boys should not cry. That's direct messaging.
So that's something that you hear.
You hear.
Auditory.
Yes.
It's auditory.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we also, for example, a parent may tell you, you must keep this family a secret.
Mm-hmm.
So you are growing up being socialized that there is this family secret, there is this family trauma. We don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We keep it a secret.
Mm-hmm.
But then the body keeps the score.
Yes.
According to one of my favorite books. I actually brought it here from Basil van der Kolk. The body keeps the score. And that's a really a seminal work where we experience the trauma and it just lives in the body. And hence the reason why it's associated with all those medical psychosomatic conditions, because it lives in the liver, it lives in our bloodstream. So that's direct messaging. And then the other way is through observation. So I grew up and my mom taught me all the ways not to be a woman, that you should tolerate domestic violence, you should have no voice, and so on. So I had to really rewrite those narratives for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you grow up, so if you think also, not only in your family, but also in the community. So a radical example would be when George Floyd died in the hands of the police. So we learned vicariously, that this is how black people are treated. And so what we have to do in order to protect ourselves is to be vigilant and always looking out for our safety. But if we look at it, go back within the family, all those family secrets, the children observe it, they hear it, they see it. But we, as parents, I remember I had a client when I worked in the family court, and the little girl said, I heard my dad was actually hitting on my mom. I heard it. I left my room. I peeped in the window. I heard it. And the next morning, I saw the scars on her face. And my mom told me, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And what is she teaching her child? Don't believe in her own perceptions.
Yes.
Don't believe in what she sees. Don't believe it should. So children are socialized by observation to accept violence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's traumatic.
Yes.
And so it's been passed on from one generation to the next, to the next, and to the next.
Yes. And also, what I find interesting about this as well, so even if you had smooth, balanced, functional childhood in a functional family, still it's 7 generations. Because if you look back, how do you define a generation? 20, 25 years per
1 year.
generation?
Mm-hmm.
So we go back 7 times 20, 140, 150 brings us to slavery, brings us to a Holocaust, brings us to... So can we state that, especially living in the Caribbean, having slave descendants as grandparents, can we state that we have some slave issue, trauma
Absolutely.
in our...
Absolutely. There are a number of Caribbean scholars that have written eloquently about the fact that the Caribbean islands is riddled with domestic violence and also community violence. This is attributed from our slave legacy, because this is where we learned on the plantation to accept violence, and violence is the way that we discipline.
Yes.
So this has been embedded in our DNA, and our default mode is to be violent or to
Yes.
be aggressive or to be react, and that has interfered even in our interpersonal relationships, that we don't communicate very well. We tend to
Yes.
be aggressive. So absolutely yes, and there is research
Yes.
that have actually
Yes, so
shown
the roots go there.
Yeah, so much so there is a liberation psychologist in the U.S. I don't remember her name, but she has coined the term post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Whoa. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Yeah.
Akin to post-traumatic stress disorder. So she argues that so there is this. So it's not post-traumatic stress disorder. There is also post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yes, because it's very recent, actually. We think it's 100 years ago, but it's very recent. If we look at it from a intergenerational healing perspective. Yes, and so this is how it's transmitted, and now what we can do about it. What you are doing about it. You are, Clementia, you are active in this field.
Yeah.
Can you share in what ways you contribute to healing of trauma?
I intend to make this my postdoctoral work, because the findings of my study in Aruba on child maltreatment revealed that 78% of the children in the study experience at least one type of maltreatment. So you're talking about 8 out of every 10 children experience child maltreatment.
Is this exceptionally high in Aruba, or is it a pattern in Caribbean islands?
It's a pattern throughout the Caribbean islands.
That it's so high.
Yes, Suriname has a similar number, and Curacao did a similar study. It wasn't as high, but the researcher in Suriname used a different instrument to the one that I use, so it's not really comparable. So that is concerning.
It is.
And the study also revealed, I looked at polyvictimization, meaning the extent to which children experience multiple types of maltreatment at the same time, like complex trauma. And 68% of the children experience 2 to 3 types of maltreatment at the same time. So that's complex trauma.
That's a different type of abuse.
Yes. So at the same time they experience physical abuse, they may have experienced sexual abuse and perhaps even emotional abuse. That's a lot.
Yes.
For a child to have experienced. And that could interfere in their well-being, at the level of academic performance, at the level of social relationships, at the level of their own mental health. And then you ask the question, what can be done about it? You remember we were talking about intergenerational trauma, and you've heard the saying, so the mother, so the daughter, so the father, so the son. So you're talking about this child that's been abused today. Parents, and great-grandparents may have experience. So it's not very easy to make the shift, but it's possible. So
Where do you start?
where do we start? So I have a model, a 4-step healing model.
Oh, 4-step healing model.
Yeah. And it's called RRIP. 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 RRIP.
RIP.
Our.
Our.
2 R's.
Okay.
I. And a P.
RIP.
RIP.
Write it down, turhinde. Write down RRIP. Esa kita 4 paso nang pa
In terms of
sanasyong intergenerational. Okay, let's go.
So
R.
the first step is to recognize it. So reflect and recognize all the different signs, symptoms, and behavioral indicators of trauma in your own life.
Can you name a few?
So, for example,
Because
you have problems eating, problems sleeping, obesity, alcoholism.
But the thing is, it's normalized.
Well,
That's
then
the thing. You say, oh, I don't sleep so well. That's normal. Oh, I have some stress. That's normal. Oh, I tend to overeat. That's normal.
no.
So it takes
That's why we need
mindfulness.
to reflect on those behaviors and those lifestyles and ask the question, where is it coming from? I know of a family, everybody in the family have sleeping problems. And they have socialized themselves to a particular form of self-medicating. And this friend of mine, she gave birth to a baby, and even the baby already have sleeping problems. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is really intergenerational. But so we need to, and it's not the matter of not sleeping. Where is it coming from? Oftentimes, if we do the reflection and we do the intergenerational work, we will recognize it's coming from a space of trauma. Now, in Aruba, the recent study last year, the STEP study that the VA did on lifestyles in Aruba, 50% of the population said that they drink in the last 30 days. And I think, I have the data somewhere. I actually was looking at the study. 50% total population drink, 21% engage in heavy episodic drinking. Obesity, 79% of the population in Aruba is overweight or obese, and 46% is obese. So where is that coming from? Could it be coming from a space of trauma yet to be identified?
Yeah.
Are we drinking to numb our feelings and our problems? So I'm saying the first R is to let us recognize our behaviors, our illnesses, our pain, and name it, feel it, and do some truth telling.
I love that part. We're definitely going to hide. Go into that. It's truth telling.
We need to tell the truth about our family stories. We need not to be in denial of sexual abuse, of mental health issues, we need to be able to speak the truth. Name it so we could tame it. So that's the R, recognize it.
Recognize it, no, reflect it. Reflect, recognize it, and name it.
Name it. It's part of the truth telling. So in other words, we need to get away from the silence and hiding it and being in denial. Silence doesn't help the process at all. So that's the first R. Then the second R, which I love, is a radical act of self-love and self-care.
I love it. I got goosebumps, look.
Yeah? And why radical? Because trauma, if those behaviors that you have that are not serving you, that's interfering with your mental health and your physical health, is not serving you. If it is true, it's coming from a space of trauma, for example, sexual abuse or domestic violence. Aruba has a high percentage of divorce. So children are growing up or being socialized in divorced and separated families. it means there is some massive disruption that is taking place in your nervous system, a lack of self-esteem, not loving self, not feeling self-worthy, not feeling enough, not feeling appreciated. So to change this, it's a radical form of self-love, of changing this narrative. So I'll give an example in my own life. I mean, I grew up, I am the last of 7, and my father called me his little colored girl. I never had a name.
Oh.
And all my sisters had names when these friends came to visit. I went to school and I was teased. In those days, the word was teasing, but now it would be bullying.
Yes.
Shanti. I was called every black name. I was Black Tar. I was Black Tadpole. I was Midnight. I was Charcoal. I was everything black. So I grew up not liking, not loving myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had to go through a radical act of self-love.
Yeah. Clementia power.
And then, to support you in this radical act of self-love and self-care, I really like the wheel of well-being. So you could start anywhere in the wheel of well-being. The spiritual, the cultural, the personal, the occupational, the financial, the social, the environment. So you could start anywhere. It's like cleaning your house on a Saturday. It doesn't matter which room you start. By the end of the Saturday, you should have finished. So you could start in the bedroom, in the bathroom. By the end of the weekend, you want your house clean, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with a radical act of self-care. You could start wherever. I happen to have started in the spiritual self. So I was 15 years old, and I went to this youth retreat as a Catholic. And the facilitator, her name was Rose Oberton.
Oh.
She was pointing at me. And she was saying, you are beautiful. You are made in God's work of art. You are loved. You are wonderful. You are made in God's image and likeness. And for the first time, somebody looked at me in the eye and said, I'm loved. I'm beautiful. And while she was saying this, Shanti, there was a shift happening. And she was asking to repeat it after me. And the more I repeated it, the more there was the shift in me that I was beautiful. So that's a way of doing this radical act. And it became more radical when I went to study in Jamaica. For the first time, I met a population of black people who was celebrating blackness.
Yeah.
They were celebrating who they are as African descendants. So what did I do in my radical way of loving self? I changed my wardrobe. So if you see me forever dressed in those Afrocentric accessory and
It's
dress,
beautiful.
I have been intentional about it. And I stopped perming my hair. I began to so this is what it means when you've experienced trauma and how you engage in this radical act.
Radical shift.
Another way I explain it with my clients in St. Lucia is through parenting. It means you have to rewrite the way you parent. So I gave an example. About a few months ago, I did a similar workshop at the University of Aruba for Tienda de Educación. They were celebrating International Day of the Family. And I gave the example that I never forget, because in St. Lucia, I used to be the coordinator of the National Parenting Program. And I was also doing some of the sessions, facilitating some of the sessions with the parents. And I had a group of women, mothers, I was working with to teach them alternative ways to using physical violence to discipline their children, and teaching them all the different ways. And one of them was when you find yourself ready to hit, because that's our default mode.
Yeah.
To stop, pause, take a breath, and see how you could do it differently. And she shared something with me. She said her little boy was clumsy, and I was described as clumsy. I was always anxious. Everything was falling down from my hands, because the whole household was a house of chaos and anxiety with an alcoholic father. And she said the little boy, her son, threw the cup of tea. And her immediate reaction was to hit and scream and yell, as she has as she was accustomed to, and as she experienced in her own life growing up with her mom. But she's doing this parenting program, and she said she remembered what Clementia said, to pause. I said, but then what did you do? She said, I sat on the floor with my son, I took the towel, and I said, it's okay, son, let us clean it together.
Revolution.
Let us clean it together. And by doing this, she cut the intergenerational cycle of using physical abuse as a form of discipline.
Beautiful. That's healing right there.
That is healing. And that is cutting the generational cycle.
Beautiful.
That is
Beautiful.
cutting the cycle. So that's it in terms of, that's the R, right?
The R.
Radical self-care. So you have to rewrite. And part of the radical self-care is self-forgiveness.
That's in the R?
In the hour of radical self-care and self-love is to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself.
I see a book coming up on RRIP.
Yeah? Okay.
Of course, because this goes deep.
Yeah.
Because each letter has these layers to
Many
it.
layers. So it's self-forgive. It's really forgiving self. Forgiving self is part of it. And there's a whole storyline about some of my clients often say, especially the children that I worked with that experience sexual abuse, part of their healing, they often say, if only Uncle Joe would admit that he did that to me. If only he would say sorry. So part of the radical act of self-love, of self-care, is not to wait for the other person to say, I forgive you, but to forgive yourself.
Yes.
And that brings to mind the book that I have that I took down from my study. It's called The Apology. It's written by Eve. Eve is a well-renowned woman. She is the author of the Vagina Monologues.
Yes.
And her father molested her and is dead a long, long time. And she's been doing all this advocacy work. But she's still waiting for her father to say, I'm sorry. But her father is dead.
Yeah.
And she's doing all this advocacy work and all this writing. And she decided to write the letter she expected her father would write.
That's powerful.
So part of the radical act of self-love and self-care requires you to perhaps write your own letter of apology you expect from your perpetrator, whether it's a partner, mom, or whoever.
Yeah.
So there are lots more I could say about this hour. But let's go on to the I.
I'm curious.
Which is intergenerational community care and love. So now that you've done your own work, you have seen perhaps a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a social worker, or you've taken the religious route and so on. Now it's time for your generation, to take your generation with you on that path to healing. So that's where I argued that individual therapy is good. And we've inherited this from the West in terms of approach to healing and wholeness. But I think we need to break the intergenerational cycle. We need to heal one generation at a time. So now that you've done your work or in the process of doing your work, my idea is that we will bring together in a room.
That's the collective therapy you've been talking about versus individual therapy with the psychologist.
Yes. So collective recognition that our family has inherited this wide range of trauma. And let us, over a period of time, it could take a year, maybe 2 years, we bring every family member together, as many generations we could find in Aruba, and let everybody go back to the hour, the recognize, and tell their story, the true story of how they have experienced trauma in this generation. Could you see it happening? And at the end, everybody should end with one refrain. Nunca, nunca, nunca itakaba kumi. Never, never, never again. It ends with me. So everybody makes a commitment. There was child abuse in our generation. Beginning today, we stop it. There was alcoholism in our family generation. We've seen how it has disrupted so many lives. This generation beginning today, we stop it. There was sexual abuse, there was divorce and separation, there was incarceration, whatever the trauma.
Yes.
We name it. We claim it. We tell the true stories about it. And we make a commitment, never, never again. So this is the I, and this is how we will really deal and break the cycle of intergenerational trauma.
I love that. Very powerful, because until now, like you said, we are adopting the Eurocentric way of healing, which is individual healing, but we in the Caribbean live
As a
as
collective.
community. We live as a collective.
Yeah.
So we need to heal as a
We
collective.
need to heal as a collective.
Yes.
We need to heal as a whole family generation.
I love what you said about storytelling in Centro de Barrios.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Yeah. It may mean also, because I have been writing that down, it may mean also, Shanti, going to the cemetery
Oh,
to meet generations there.
I like that.
And to tell them, I'm sorry.
That's powerful. Yeah. Now I'm super curious about the P.
Oh, the P. So the P is post-traumatic growth.
Oh, yes.
And this term was coined in, I think, in the 1990s by Richard Tedeschi and Juan Lawrence. So what is post-traumatic growth? I will give you a radical example, and then I will kind of tone it down. You remember Nelson Mandela,
Of course.
who spent 26 years in prison on Robben Island?
Yes.
26 years of trauma.
Yes.
And he was released. And he became the first black president of South Africa. And his message was forgiveness.
Yes.
And he rose to greatness. So having done your work individually, having done the work within as many generations you could find, we need to be able to identify the new narrative, which is your post-traumatic growth. What can you show as a claim, as a proof, as an evidence that there has been healing? Perhaps you could show Nelson Mandela's own was this big thing for the entire South Africa and the world as well. Maybe you can now show to the world and to yourself and your generation, you can form better relationships. You choose better partners, not those that abuse you, not those that violate your boundaries. You can now show that my first child, I parent like this. I used to hit and scream. But my second child, I parented differently. That's post-traumatic growth.
Yes.
Yeah? And maybe you were told that you would never finish college. But now you've been to the University of Aruba and then you have your bachelor's.
We're going to talk about that.
So all the obstacles and the things that you were not good enough that created obstacles in your growth, you could now say, I have lost 20 kilos.
Beautiful.
I'm no longer an alcoholic. I can manage my high blood pressure, you know? So this is the final P, post-traumatic growth. What legacy you want to leave behind for yourself and for this generation. So that's the model that I'm playing with in my postdoctoral work, a program to be developed in collaboration with some agencies here in Aruba. Yeah.
That is so inspiring. This is so beautiful. I really look forward to that work. And to go now to your present work, which is the book that I'm going to take here. Can you pass it to me?
Oh, sure.
Which is your PhD work, which is a collection of publications.
Yeah.
And it's called Reimagining Child Maltreatment, a Human Development Capability Approach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This happened 25th of April this year in Suriname. I saw the
30th.
article.
Is it 25th or the 30th? I think it's 30th.
It said 25th in the post of the university. I looked it up.
Okay.
That you were standing in your robe
Yeah?
and defending your thesis.
Okay, what is it?
But congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us about this book. What it is
So
about.
this is my PhD research. on reimagining child maltreatment in Aruba. And in this book, it consists of 9 chapters, but essentially coming out of 2 research studies I did in Aruba. The first was a national school survey from 11 high schools in Aruba. And the main research question was to find out the experiences of the children with regard to 5 types of abuse. And the second was an evaluation impact survey on the effectiveness of the Código de Protección, which is a policy framework that provides 5 steps that professionals should take in order to respond to any reported cases of child abuse and neglect. So coming out of those 2 studies, in one chapter I described the prevalence of child maltreatment. In another, I looked at polyvictimization, looking at complex trauma, or to what extent children experience one or more types of maltreatment at the same time. What's important to note is the theoretical framework for the study. So because it's a doctoral research, one has a responsibility to contribute something new to knowledge. So I was curious in finding out the extent to which children who experience child maltreatment, how does that impact their human development? And by human development, I mean really their quality of life, the extent to which they are able to live life that they have reasons to value, and so on. So that's what was my main research question. And so I could go on and on.
Yeah, yes, we are going to wrap up. So based on all your research and this beautiful book, which is a powerful legacy for all professionals in this field, for social workers, for everyone working as a healer or as an educator, as a social worker, even as a teacher, this is so powerful that we have something based on local stories, local research, and so it's customized information that we can use. So I really want to thank you from the heart for this journey, because I know it has been quite a journey and challenge. So what is something you want to share to the public out there listening, and those who are going to be listening to this link, as a message or as something from your heart that you want to share?
Yeah, and what I want to share is to take it upon myself to really ask you to do the R in the intergenerational healing process. The R means to recognize those behaviors, those illnesses in your life, those symptoms in your life, and reflect on where is it coming from. Is it coming from a space of intergenerational trauma? And stop hiding behind silence of wanting to keep the family secret or being in denial, and just take ownership. And having done that reflection, you may want to do it with someone that you trust and take responsibility and seek help. A psychologist, that's one place to start. Your spiritual leader, priest, pastor, if you have one, or someone that you could trust, or social work agencies in Aruba, and there are quite a few. Beginning today, just take responsibility for your own life, because all of us deserve a better quality of life. And if we do not repair the trauma in our lives, we will repeat it. It will be repeated in many, many more generations. And there is hope. We can stop the cycle.
Thank you, Clementia. I like what you said also, that hurt people.
Yes. Oh yeah, hurt people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was trying to say.
And you have the papimento. Yeah, choose one to share.
Hurt people. That's another way of talking about intergenerational trauma. Hende ku sufri daño, tahasi daño na otronan. Ita bisa de novo. Hende ku sufri daño, tahasi daño na otro nan. Hurt people, hurt people. So if you find yourself hurting people, a colleague, co-worker, child, parent, brother, sister, where is that hurt coming from? Could be from a space of trauma. So, it begins with you today. Let's start today. Let's start the healing process today.
Let's start the healing process today.
Yeah.
By reflecting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Recognizing. Yeah.
And we're going to complete with a song.
Oh.
You shared that your favorite song was by C.C. Winans, Goodness of God. Can you share about that song, what it means to you, and why you choose this to share this song today?
I have different favorite songs depending on the season of my life. But in those seasons, things are really good. I have many reasons to be grateful. And so I like the song where she talked about the goodness of God. And I can see the goodness of God in my life.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clementia, for all your warm wisdom, your information, your love, your care, and all the work that you do for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm saying goodbye to the Facebook and YouTube listeners. We're going to listen to Clemencia's favorite song. So we're going to say goodbye here on this channel. If you want to join us for the song, please go to canal90fm.awe or go on your radio to Canal 90 to enjoy this last song. And thank you very much for listening. Danki patay akinang. Turhende kuta escúchanos awe. Espera información que ha llenado. Y láganos sabo comentario. Siempre nos gusta escuchar con bo asinti ko esaki. Hopi danki. Danki na Clemencia, danki na Nati, y te otro simán con el siguiente episodio de Yobida. Danki.